What are your thoughts on evolutionary psychology?
Ooh, my thoughts on evolutionary psych. Oh boy. Oh boy. Uh, so, hmm. so set the scene. Hit the mic. This is why it's moved further away from me in the videos. I still haven't seen the question. That's impressive. Cool. So, um, the closest I came to taking an evolutionary psychology class was the psychobiology of sex, which was taught by one of my favorite professors in undergrad. And do I have the book here? Yeah, nope, nope. The male female book that showed up at some point in one of the Peterson videos was our textbook. And this professor was somebody who did, there it is, finally. Okay. So this professor was somebody who did teratogenic research. So he had a rat lab and basically did research on different chemicals to see if they would cause problems with babies or things like that. So it was a rat lab, but you give them a chemical, see if teratogenic effects happen. And teratogen is basically like monster maker in the translation from Greek, which is lovely. But with something like thalidomide, which didn't go through these tests, and you have all these moms taking it while they're pregnant, and then you have the kids born with the different abnormalities that they had, like teratogenic research is very important to do. So, anyways, point with that is he was not an evolutionary psychologist. And it was pretty early in the class where he gave us basically a warning to keep in mind through the whole class. Where evolutionary psychology, like we can talk about where we think different behaviors or like cognition patterns or whatever come from, but we can't really test it, especially in humans. It's basically like an evolutionary fairy tale where we have like the different mating choices or different like family configurations in different parts of the world, and like, okay, so some people would take the nuclear family as like this is the ideal evolutionary structure for a family because it's so ubiquitous and it's helpful because the man has to commit his resources to the wife and the woman has a partner who she can rely on, blah 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 blah. You know, in reality, of course, nuclear family is a relatively modern invention, and you know, there's cultures where you have like the harem sort of thing where you have like a male and a bunch of females, and you have like the sneaky subversive males who sometimes sneak into the harem and all of that, where you have like the alpha male who does good in passing his genes on, but you also have the not alpha males who do pretty good in passing their genes on as well, so both behavior types persist. And then like you can kind of get some better footing on things like the dimorphic body shapes between the sexes, where like guys tend to be bigger than girls, or males tend to be bigger than females, I should say, and like reasons why this would be. And we can look across the animal kingdom and look at like gorillas versus like chimpanzees, where you have very different body sizes versus very similar body sizes, and look at their mating strategies and try to figure out what's going on there and where do we fit in. So that's a little bit better, but it's still like we're looking at the end result and we can't really do the science and testing a hypothesis and going out and manipulating things and seeing the outcome. So I think it can give some interesting like philosophical ideas or theoretical ideas, but going out and testing takes either somebody with an incredibly gifted, subtle understanding of how things work, or you get just evolutionary fairy tales. And so, an example of one, I think, and we'll wrap up with this example, I think. So, an example of an interesting thing is there was a model for memory that put forward that our memory, because we evolved in the savanna of Africa most recently-ish, we had the best memory for things related to that. So in this experiment, they had people read scenarios. And in these scenarios, you're either in a city or you're in like the savannah. And as you're going through the scenario, like you look around and what sort of objects are most relevant to your survival. So in the city scenario, you need to survive a mugging. In the savannah scenario, you need to survive a lion attack. And so the words that are most relevant to that were the ones that were remembered most. But this experiment found that the savannah scenario had higher memory overall than the city scenario. And so the authors of that experiment said, aha, this supports, our evolutionary background where these things are more relevant and more interesting to us and more salient and blah, 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 blah. So that makes it more evolutionarily significant. Some other memory researchers went along and went, no. And so their theory was that it wasn't just that the lion tools and other things to survive a lion attack were more interesting and memorable because of our evolutionary background. It's just it was more interesting to the undergrad population taking this experiment. Whereas, everybody lives in the city, or most everybody, especially if you're in college, lives in a city. You see these every day. It's not very interesting. But imagining the savannah with the lions and all of these cool things, that made it more interesting. So what they did is they added zombies. So they had some people in a city needing to survive a zombie attack, some people needing to survive a mugger. And then they had people either need to survive a lion attack in the savannah or the zombie attack in the savannah. And they found that the most memorable things in this case were the zombies. I think it was regardless of what environment you were in, having to survive a zombie attack made the words more memorable. And so that was sort of like a be careful where you're going with evolutionary psychology, because you do have to sort of test the boundaries of things and make sure that you understand what mechanism you're saying is going on is what's going on, and test it. Throw zombies into the equation and see if that changes things. And in this case, it did. So that was kind of a fun finding. They were fun. Okay. Let me lean over for questions. I'll be right back. Okay. Need to figure out that lag too. Well, it was nice chatting with you. Hopefully we figure out what the technical things are so the next one is not 30 minutes or an hour late again. And yeah. Regularly scheduled Peterson video next Friday. I don't need to name drop the Patreon. Yeah. See you next time. Have a good weekend. Bye.